WBEE HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
Welcome in to the Sports Bar. We are back 2 hours of sports talk excellence. The sun is out here in the Flower City from the High Falls Studios in downtown Rochester, New York. My name is Gene Battaglia. A fantastic show we have lined up for you today. It involves you. You can write to us at any time with your feedback, your thoughts. At WGR Rochester is our handle on X. You can give us a call, 585-866-4326. You can reach us certainly on all social media platforms. We're on YouTube and Twitch. For our viewers watching right now, that is not Tim Schneider.
No.
Tim is off today. We have 3D here.
3D?
Yeah, like you're so good you have two nicknames. Like the Dandalorian, but Dan Drummy Dandalorian 3D. 3D's there. So
Understood.
yeah,
Understood.
so Dan Drummy, our fine producer, who normally is in the room across from us, because quite honestly, it's not like our studio is really cramped here, but you get work done better.
I focus much more when I'm in there, kind of close the door and kind of get hunker down and go to work.
I hear you. So Timmy will be back tomorrow. So we're back and rolling here today. Great show we have lined up for you here today. 2 o'clock, somewhere in that hour, we'll be talking to Paul Hamilton, WGR Sabres reporter, Buffalo up 1-0. Got thoughts on that, as I don't think this is going to be let's roll, and it's going to be 4 or 5. There will be a counterpunch from Montreal for sure. We'll talk to Paul Hamilton coming up here. But, boy, what a start for the Sabres, right? Like that. You regain home ice. Thad Brown from News 8 will join us here bottom of this hour, as not only do we have the Sabres to talk about, but tomorrow, my gosh, it's such a weird world we live in. Like, normally it's like 90% Buffalo Bills talk in our town, and the Bills have been kind of now pushed to the background. They have a new stadium opening up. They are a team that should contend for a Super Bowl, and they've got a lot of new parts, namely the rookies, and it is rookie minicamp. So we'll talk to Thad Brown a little Bills football, certainly Sabres talk as well. Again, our phone number, 866-4326. That is the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. Most important thing for the Sabres last night, you could say, is the power play. I would point out, too, I don't think it was as bad as we all think it was. I mean, they would have had 2 in that series had the clock not expired in the Boston series. It's regaining home ice. Think about it this way. They lost 2 of the 3 games to Boston in that series on home ice. And the other one, you had to pull a rabbit out of your hat there in game 1. So, in reality, you didn't control any of those games. The one you did came about very late in game 1 in the third. So for the Sabres last night, getting the quick goal, always in control, and they certainly had more opportunities to add to the lead in the third. I won't call it relaxing. It never is in the postseason, but that was as good as it gets. That's a solid team that they defeated. It's a different team. You don't have a Zadorov or anybody like that, and maybe Xhekaj is the guy that can step up, and that would be the interesting counterpunch from Montreal. We'll talk to Paul Hamilton coming up next hour. Like, what would they look to do? I didn't think Dubas was all that great. Look, the Greenway was a monster last night. He was great. Like, you could tell, like, he sat somebody down right off the bat, and then for him to kind of – this is why you shoot the puck. You just never, ever know. And he's in a good spot, and there's a little bit of a screen, and Montreal goaltender should have had it. Did not. And that proved to be the third goal. Zach Benson, what can you say? Like, there's some guys that play at a level, and then when the playoffs come around, play at a different level. Seems like we have one of those guys. And thing number 2, we can not put to rest here, but that was a concern heading into this, right? And we've had concerns all along the way. And it's like for Sabres fans, like, I don't want to get all biblical, but we're doubting Thomas, right? Like, come on, this isn't for real. Like, in January, hey, they're winning games, and then Alex Tuck in a win over the Kings, post game has the declaration, we don't want to get in, we want to win the Stanley Cup. Whoa. This isn't real. What are we doing here? And then, okay, they keep winning. Oh, my gosh, they have this Olympic break. 3 weeks off. What is going to happen in between? And they're going into the Olympic break when you lose to Pittsburgh, a game you shouldn't have lost. Like, oh, how's this actually going to look? No, they answered the question on that. Oh, boy, the big old demon, one of the two teams that has dominated this conference here since 2019, the Tampa Bay Lightning. You have 4 matchups against these guys. I'll believe it when I see that. You beat them all 4 times. Okay, what's the next big demon? Playoff hockey. It's a different level. Is this team that really doesn't have all that much experience out of Zucker and a little bit from Grew? Do they really have? Okay, you're now 5 victories in, and it certainly seems like this is a Sabre team that understands there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. Maybe that first game in Boston proved that as kind of like all right, that's something you put in the back of your mind. Any situation that we have, we can overcome, and certainly they did do that. Montreal is going to be a hostile environment. So what you must do in this series is protect the home ice. That is step number 1. So Paul Hamilton coming up in hour number 2. If you want to talk Sabres again, our number 866-4326. Game 2, by the way, we will have tomorrow night, also on WCMF, of course, and right here on WGR Rochester, where normally I would say 6 o'clock pregame. Let's be honest. Pregame begins with Jeremy and Joe, or while Joe is out, Jeremy and Owen on our fine station in the morning. It's predominantly Sabre talk around the clock here, and it's pretty exciting. And what I would say to anybody is, look, hockey doesn't need to be your favorite sport. It can be football. It can be whatever your favorite sport is. Come on board. It is just fine. And what this series has provided, this whole run, all these kind of little viral things, like the Blade game, for instance. And there was the feeble attempt by Montreal last night. I don't know if you saw that.
Mm-hmm, I did.
Yeah, like somebody from Montreal came down and did a Habs in 4 sweater and turned around to the crowd, and it was just a bunch of kids, and the kids were just kind of looking like, really? And good on the kids. They picked up on it right away, like, oh, my gosh, this guy isn't one of us. And that would be really funny to get a hold of that sweater. Like, that sweater some point will end up on eBay and be like, oh, my gosh, I know that sweater. Like, you'd have to be a really nut. Imagine, like, you spent how much money to get that jersey customized? Like, what, $300, $400 all told? And, yeah, you're not winning that in 4. All for a good joke. Might have been the Montreal Canadiens social team, for all I know, putting that together. We've got other news and notes today. If I am running a Division I football team, and the schedule is going to change here, so maybe this is kind of a point I'm going to make that might end up being a moot point, because if I was running a Division I football team, I would want to schedule one of my 12 games as a week 0 game. Think about the advantage of that, just to, along the way, have an extra bye week, or just if you want to raise the level of your program, hey, there are a bunch of networks out there that would gladly run. Now, I don't know the logistics of how many teams get to apply for a week 0 game. I think week 0 is fantastic, because by that point in August, we are sick of preseason football in the NFL. Gross. We are famished for the real thing. That ain't it. We're doing our fantasy drafts, but if we have something else, and by the time we get to week 0, oh, here's this game of 2 teams you don't care about, Kansas State and somebody else playing in Ireland. You're eating it up, right? That's where we are. Or you see some sort of, Mountain West game, but you're watching that. What else is happening in the last week in August? Little League World Series and Major League Baseball and maybe the U.S. Open. Week 0, I would want for 2 reasons. I think it gives you a competitive advantage when it comes to scheduling, gives you that bye, and it certainly raises the profile of your school. Your fan base, your alums can feel that pride when you're taking that center stage. Now, if you're a big program in the SEC, you don't need that. Let's be honest. If you're a program like Syracuse, you could use a little bit of that, right? Like, they've tried different things over the years, and I'm not critical of them going down and playing at Yankee Stadium. That's probably important. There's no doubt a lot of downstate alums for Syracuse. But this is different. They never had a Week 0 game before. Syracuse will be playing in Week 0 against Wake Forest. Now, here's the other part. Now, I tell you this. It's not in the corporate name dome, JMA Wireless Dome. It's in Toronto. So this will be at the field where they play the Argo games. This is the field where they play the soccer games, the MLS. They don't play any of those anymore if you haven't followed along in Skydome. It's in BMO Field. I don't even know what that corporation is. It looks like the ideal soccer field. It looks like, all right, if we were going to go the full distance with what we had, I guess we still have it, downtown Rochester, the soccer stadium. Okay, this is a stadium that seats 20 to 25,000. It looks like an old-fashioned soccer stadium. And if you're going to play CFL football, why not? You're outdoors. And for Syracuse, it's probably a great play. You do have people across the border, I'm sure, that went to Syracuse. You do have the ability to recruit if you want to just kind of plant your flag over there and say, hey, high school student, have you ever thought about going to Syracuse? That makes a lot of sense. But that's well, who owns the stadium? Well, it's Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Mm-hmm. That's the outfit I don't trust. It was a sleepy summer day last year where all of a sudden Pete Gawelli and his partners, and granted, like one of them, actually two of them, Vince Carter played for the Raptors. I think I'm not sure if McGrady did or not, but he's part of the new ownership. And they pop up at this stadium. And it's a press conference for the Buffalo Bills talking about partnerships. But there's no end result. It's like, okay, where are we going with that? And that was oh, no. Are you going to move camp up here? Are you going? Well, number one, the Bills do love camp in Rochester. Mm-hmm. And McDermott always loved it. And as long as Josh Allen loves it, we're good here, all right? And we're good this year and next year and in 2028. So there's 3 years left in the current Bills deal, which I think it's notable considering that they've always been kind of going year to year. So we don't have to have that conversation for a little bit because we always felt like it was inevitable when the new stadium opened. Would there be more events? Would everything kind of go there? Would they have more open practices? The answer for the next 3 years is no. But I've just always wondered what is the Bills' ultimate objective with Toronto. That stadium is not NFL caliber. It's just not. I'll just say that. It would be a nice place to play a game. Football fans would love it, but it doesn't have all the revenue streams that you would need to make it work. Certainly the television would be there, but when we talk about international expansion for the NFL, and boy, it's going to happen in our lifetime, is it not? It's what it's all leading to. We're all the frog, and around us is the boiling water. It's happening with the NFL. They eventually will have every single team will be playing one of their home games outside of their own stadium. And maybe ultimately this is it, that the Bills are just trying to be strategic, that say, hey, ultimately, and by ultimately, like say 5 years from now, when the NFL does get to an 18-game schedule, by 18 games, I mean, I'm not talking about the bye week. I'm talking about right now it's 17 regular season games plus the 3 preseason. I fully believe we'll get to 18-2. Probably will wait till the next CBA opens up at the end of the decade. But when you get to 18, that doesn't mean, oh, my gosh, this is awesome. We're going to have an extra regular season home game. No, that's going to go somewhere else where they're just trying to grow the market. And if you're looking for growth opportunities, growth in the United States, they have us. Like, what more could you get out of here other than maybe a market like, I don't know, San Antonio or somewhere in Dallas who just really, really loves football? No, expansion in the United States for the NFL, I don't see in the cards. If they want to make money, you want to get up to Canada. You maybe want to go overseas. There will be an international division at some point. So maybe I'm connecting two stories that shouldn't be connected, but I just think it's noteworthy that those folks in Canada are looking for additional events. So, again, I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I will love it when we get to August and we will be talking, and by that point the Bills preseason over with. Hey, are the Orange anything this year? Well, let's find out. It's Wake Forest they're playing. That should be that is a winnable game. Winnable with a capital W. It's in Canada. And if they're going to do this in week 0, I'm going to assume it's going to be at a time that is going to be favorable for us to kind of tune in. I don't think they would put it, Saturday after 1 at 1 o'clock. Maybe they would. I would think that, okay, let's kind of showcase this, and it gives all the Canadian television partners something to kind of promote. I'm looking forward to it. Good on Syracuse. 585-866-4326 is our phone number to call, as we've got Thad Brown coming up here in just a little bit, talking some football here as well as Sabres hockey. Is there ever been a sporting event that happened and you missed it and you regret it? Now, I'm not talking about, I would have loved to see the Miracle on Ice. Okay, history lesson, nobody saw the Miracle on Ice. It was on tape delay. So if anybody that says, oh my gosh, I remember watching that live, no, they're lying. It was not on live. Unless they were watching the TV truck or something like that, or they had tickets to the game. Dan, that did not happen.
Nope, didn't happen.
I actually remember listening to it on the radio. Who knows, that maybe it made an impression on me as a young kid, listening to it live, like, oh my gosh, and then can we watch it later? And it ended up being in prime time, and even then Jim McKay signs on, they wouldn't tell you. But I digress. There's two examples, I would say, in my sports fandom, and anybody that wants to kind of weigh in, like something that happened that you missed, that you regret. Again, Miracle on Ice doesn't qualify. Wild card game against Houston doesn't qualify if you live in Rochester. That game was not on television. It was blacked out. Think about that. We had blackout rules. My goodness, terrible. The idea is here something that was accessible to you as a fan, and you didn't watch it, and I can't believe I missed out on that, because seeing it in real time is what it's about. I'm going to give you two examples. One, because physically I conked out, and it's another Syracuse example. How I miss Syracuse being in the Big East, right? If you talk about great Syracuse wins in the Big East, this is number one on the list. And I'm watching this, and I see Devendorf hit the overtime, hit the game winner at the end of regulation. Bam! And he goes up on the scorer's table, and he's pumping his fist. Except, no, that didn't count. It was after the clock. We go to overtime. All right, well, okay. It's Syracuse and UConn in overtime, and I watch the first overtime, and then I fall asleep. And by the time I wake up, it's 2 in the morning. And that's the worst, like when you're falling asleep on the couch, like what happened? And I was trying to fight and stay awake. And then the horror when you see that Syracuse won a game, scoring 127 points in 6 overtimes. I beat myself up for that, Dan. Like that, I was soft that night. I was soft. I mean, I regret it. I would have had some coffee. I would have walked around. Maybe did some chores. When I get nervous, I do laundry. That's what I do. Watching sports. Did a lot of laundry leading in. That. Hey, except for the producer liking me. 2 thumbs up. Laundry. The other, and I quizzed you, Dan. You knew the answer to this. The other thing I regret tremendously not seeing in real time happened. Everybody take a guess now before we play it. What happened 10 years ago today? Or more accurately, 10 years ago tonight. And the only hint I'm going to give you is maybe you didn't see this in real time because it was on the West Coast. Maybe you didn't see this in real time because it was on a Friday night on the West Coast. And maybe you were out and about or you're doing other things. It's just another game in a long baseball season. Except this wasn't another game in a long baseball season. This happened 10 years ago tonight.
Malone looking for his first hit of the year. He drives one. Deep left field. Back goes Upton. Back near the wall. It's out of here. Bartolo has done it! The impossible has happened! The team vacates the dugout as Bartolo takes the long trot, his first career home run, and there will be nobody in the dugout to greet him. This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball. Bartolo Colon has gone deep.
Garrett Cohn's right.
Yeah.
One of the greatest moments, like Bartolo. Shields is the pitcher. Can you imagine, like, the shame he must live with? And Bartolo, I mean, it's comical how that all went down. And I remember looking at my phone like, what? What? No. And then you turn on the TV and you see the score afterward. I'm like, oh, my gosh. And it's a West Coast game, Mets in San Diego. Now, a good friend of mine, Kevin Roche, you may remember him from 13 years ago. He's been doing RIT hockey pregame for more than a decade. His answer to this would be and I texted him too, and he was off the radar, was the no-hitter by Johan Santana.
I was going to say that.
That was your I remember like turning that on, I'm like, no way. And that game destroyed the career of Johan Santana because we ended up throwing 140 pitches or something like that. But again, you could tell, like, this is my kind of fandom. One would be Syracuse Orange basketball. I can't believe I missed that. And the other being the Bartolo home run. If I saw that in real time, I'm just trying to imagine what my reaction would have been. Would have I keeled over? Would I be running around like a madman? Because Bartolo's a lovable guy. Played for a gazillion teams. But there's really only one fan base that embraces the guy, and it's the Mets. We're the fun fan base, Dan.
Yes, we are.
We may not win, but we have a lot of fun.
My other one would have been the Amerks outdoor game across the way. How many years ago was that? Was it 10, 12 years ago also? Was it
2013 or 2014.
Yeah.
Mike Rotolo was a freshman. This is how my mind works. So, like, that would have been RIT play the following night.
Yep.
And the Amerks had a really nice win. That was when we had Time Warner Cable Sports Network, and that was live on television. We never had that since, because I've talked to people surrounding that. It didn't make money. It lost money for all parties, but that was certainly a lot of fun. Good call.
Yeah.
All right, so anybody wants to weigh in on that, things that you regret not seeing. For me, that was 10 years ago tonight. No, one of the two on my list. That Brown News 8 will be joining us here shortly. Paul Hamilton, hour number 2. My name is Gene Battaglia, and this is the Sports Barn, WGR Rochester.
So much. Sports Update.
Great start for the Sabres here in round 2. They knock off Montreal by a 4-2 score. Head coach Lindy Ruff on the Game 1 win.
You know what I like? The quick start we got off to. I know we can be a lot better. I thought some of our puck decisions weren't up to par. We gave them a little bit of momentum. I think we hit 4 or 5 crossbars or posts and had a lot of great opportunities. I think the 3-4 days off affected guys different ways.
We'll talk some Sabres and Bills coming up next. Thad Brown and News 8 joining us here in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings in their 6-game series at Syracuse. They've split the first 2. Series continuing tonight at 6:35. On the Major League schedule, they go to the 3rd in the Bronx as the Yankees have a 1-0 lead over the Rangers. Top of 2, no score between the Twins and the Nationals. Mets are in Colorado coming up at 3 o'clock. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Top shelf sports talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
For me, it just means a lot. Been grinding for a lot of years, and finally the team have success. And when the team is having success, you usually get individually success too. So it's unreal. It's cool.
Would be Rasmus Dahlin with his thoughts today. He's a finalist for the Norris Trophy. That is one of the 3 being honored for the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. And certainly something that helps out, right? It's not just him. Bo Byram, you don't think Colorado's having a little regret seeing what he's doing out here as well? As we welcome in Thad Brown from News 8. Thad, appreciate the time and just how refreshing is this that, hey, the Sabres not only are relevant, it's kind of fascinating to think just how far this team might actually go. Thad, how are you today?
Good. Gene, appreciate having me on. I mean, it's I don't know if refreshing is the right word. I mean, from my point of view, it's a story. I'm going to cover it, whether they're good or bad. They are fantastic. I mean, it is, and the story itself is unbelievable. And it's been rehashed 1,000 times, and now you're getting to the point where you're seeing Instagram aggregators recycling the story. Hey, look at how great this is, and doing 15,000 likes or whatever, because it is that amazing that this was a last place team. They do virtually nothing except fire the general manager. The new GM doesn't come in and change the roster much, just really presides over it, and suddenly it's good. And it's not only good, but one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NHL for the last few months. So to see where it ends up and how far the Sabres can take this is fascinating, because every part of it is new. It's making the playoffs for the first time in 15 years, winning a series for the first time in 20, dealing with playoff pressure. Last night was the first time they looked good at home in the postseason, having to figure out how that works, getting the power play off the mat. I mean, everything is a unique, the first time in whatever years it's happened, and following this team having to navigate through all this pressure or what could be a 2-month run is a really, really fun, interesting story to cover.
Yeah, sometimes playing on home ice, it isn't the advantage, particularly in hockey, that you think it might be as compared to other sports. But how important was it last night? Because in round 1, we look back, wait a second, actually the Sabres lost 2 of those games to Boston. The other one, they just barely pulled it out. They pulled a rabbit out of their hat. How important, in your opinion, was it to just at least maintain the home ice advantage last night?
The guys didn't really put too much on it, but I think it mattered. I think maybe, proving to themselves that they had a good reason to be confident about themselves might be the way to go, if that's even a little convoluted. And I do think that there is a degree of, because it's been so long, because the fan base is so jazzed up about this, because the expectations are so high, and it's a different type of expectation, because Bills fans are now in a spot where they almost demand a championship. If you don't get to the Super Bowl, you're a failure. See McDermott, Sean. But with the Sabres, it's more like, wow, this is awesome. How far can we go? This is great. I mean, if the Sabres lost the next 4 games, no one would call this season a failure. It would still be, wow, that was a great ride. Can't wait to do it again next year. But there's still a degree of the players having to live up to that hype and that expectation and wanting to put on the show and wanting to succeed for all the excitement that's going on around them. And I think it did make a difference in the first series, especially when you combine the different play style that Boston has in Montreal. Boston wants to grind things down, and I think the Sabres had playing in that environment. Montreal's more wide open. I think Buffalo's very comfortable playing in that environment. They get a defenseman to fall down early, pucks in the net. They get a power play that was terrible, and then they get a bounce, pucks in the net, and all of a sudden you feel really good about everything. It can really be that simple sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and granted, I don't watch Montreal Canadiens hockey, and Thad, quite honestly, I don't think you do either, but I don't know if this team, what they do, matches up all that well. We saw Boston be physical, and it did pay off at certain points. If you're Montreal, you're just kind of sticking with it, knowing that sometimes it's just hockey and the bounce will go your way.
I think that's the absolute number one question that Montreal should be asking. And you're right. I'm hardly an aficionado of Canadiens hockey, but I got 60 full minutes of it last night, and the reaction I have is they're really talented and they can move the puck. And that first 40 minutes, it looked almost like an all-star game. It was up and down, back and forth. After the Sabres scored their first goal, I think the Canadiens were actually the better team for a lengthy period of that. But then Buffalo gets the power play and puts another one, and it's 2-0. I do think Montreal was very much in that game. Even though it was 4-2 and it felt like the Sabres had full control, Canadiens hit a couple posts. They really had plenty of good chances. I think the Canadiens had more decent chances and the Sabres had more ridiculously good chances, which they cashed more of as well. And that was somewhat of the difference of the game. But going back to your question, if we're going to play 6 more of these, right, in theory, the idea that Buffalo is going to lose 4 of them, to me, doesn't seem reasonable because right now they have the better goaltender, and I don't think either goaltender is elite, but Alex Lyon I trust more than Dobas right now, and Dobas is in year 2. He's a kid still. And then up front, even though Montreal with Suzuki and Caulfield might be a little better at the top, and there's no doubt if the Sabres have an issue right now, it might be the number 1 line. Mm-hmm. The Sabres are so deep and have so many options that if we're going to play, like I said, if we're going to play this 6 more times, I can't imagine how the Sabres lose 4 of them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. All right, like Contage actually in that line, kind of, but as long as you have other lines that are doing what they're doing, that everything's all good. I wanted to go back to something you said though about the GM because certainly picking up a Stanley and maybe Carrick, there were some moves that it wasn't like the big hitter, but certainly they're paying dividends. But what do we make of Kevin Adams now in retrospect? Because you're losing. It wasn't good. He helped put this team together. Will he get another opportunity to be a GM in this league?
That's a fantastic question because the roster that he assembled on paper, the names on lines and in positions certainly worked out just fine. I do think that you have to give some credence to the idea that his leadership and the way the franchise felt, for lack of a better term, under him was a problem. And even though Jarmo Kekalainen comes in and doesn't do anything, and I think this is really more about removing Adams than adding Kekalainen, the point I'm going to make, I do think then with Adams gone, there had to be a breath of fresh air. When you walk into the building and know, okay, the leadership's going to be different, we got a clean slate, we're starting over, I think that there was a little bit of a refreshing for the organization that was part of the different factors that turned into this incredible run. And from that point of view, that is certainly a knock on Kevin Adams. But still, the roster is 95% something he built, and he deserves credit for that too. I mean, the Sabres, go on and win a Stanley Cup. Kevin Adams is part of the reason why that happened, even if his firing, I think, is certainly also part of the reason why it happened as well.
Thad Brown from News 8 joining us here in the Sports Bar. One more hockey question, but since we are a Rochester show, about the end for the Amerks and looking ahead. So we know Mike Leone is going to be back as the head coach. What about Devin Levi? Because I see the pathway in Buffalo, and there isn't a pathway, right? Like Lyon and UPL, both under contract. No reason to think that the Sabres would change that up. It was working pretty well. Okay, Levi has 1 year left on his contract, or one more year before they would have to put him on waivers. Do the Sabres move off of this? Could you actually see the Amerks opening up yet another season with Devin Levi as their main goaltender?
I could see it, yeah, but I do think you bring up a good point that something's probably got to give. I don't think it's out of the realm that the Sabres move on from UPL or Lyon. Like we just said, the strength of this team is not the goaltending. And the guy who's been good is the guy who they didn't even want to start game 1 of the playoffs. They went with UPL. He has the trash game too, and they move over the line, and everything's been great so far. I don't think either guy is so good that you can't say we have a prospect in Levi, if he's still considered this within the organization, that we think can be a long-term stalwart and goal, that we're just going to move on from Levi because we had one great year with the two guys we have right now. I don't think that's how you want to plan it. That said, I think Levi was fine this year. I think the problems with the Emirates defensively were largely what's in front of him and not him, but it did seem like the issues with the Emirates defensively seeped into his play, that there was frustration, that there are just too many good chances, and I think any goalie would get worn out in that situation. So where the Sabres go, I don't have a good answer for it, but I am not discounting the idea that Levi is one of the long-term solutions in Buffalo and not UPL or Lyon, even if the contracts probably would push you the other way. I do think that within the next 6 to 10 months, somebody's going to be gone. I just don't know which of the three I would pick right now. Yeah. And really, it could be any of the three.
Yeah, if you're doing long-range planning for the Sabres, and again, I would just say this. We should all say, hey, it's more probable than not that the season is going to end short of the destination, right? But like you said, Thad, if it does, everybody's jazzed up for next year. You want to keep the core together, and this is all off-season talk, but like you want to keep these, the main pieces, and these guys will all want contracts at some point, and maybe backup goaltender is an area where you might be able to save a few bucks.
For sure. And look, of the three guys, if you were going to say pick one of these three guys, or let me rephrase the question. One of these three guys is going to be a high-level goaltender in the NHL in 5 years, and I had to pick one, I'm picking Devin Levi. And not because I'm wildly confident in what Levi would do at the next level, but I am pretty confident in what UPL and Lyon probably won't do at the next level. So the upside of the three, to me, is still the guy in Rochester. Doesn't mean that that's who you keep, because you got to realize that upside. That's why Isak Rosen got traded away. I think there's a feeling in the organization that maybe he's a quadruple A player at best. But sitting here right now, we know what the UPL and Lyon ceiling is. I don't think we're fully versed in what the Devin Levi ceiling can be.
That is a take, because our producer, Dan DeLorean, his eyes just lit up. You were like, yes, I loved it. Okay, we're going to mark that. And anytime Devin Levi, when he becomes like the number one goaltender, whether it's the Sabres or somebody else, here was Thad Brown in May 7, 2026 telling us that. Thad Brown from News 8 joining us here. But Friday is a busy day. You got Game 2 coming up for the Sabres against Montreal. You also have the beginning of Bills rookie minicamp, and it feels like the Bills are it is the off season, but normally we're wall-to-wall Bills talk. Thad, when we're talking about the rookies, whether that's a draft pick or somebody that's a UDFA, your thoughts on what are some of the top storylines you're looking in Buffalo this week in terms of the Bills?
Going to be rough for some of that, because the Bills took a lineman as their only guy in the first top 60 picks, and until you get the pads on, you really don't see a whole lot of what's going on in the trenches. I think in terms of this weekend, I don't think we'll see a lot about Davison Igbinosun. When we get to OTAs, maybe a little usage between him and Max Hairston might be something to look at. I mean, look, we all need to kind of have an agreement at some point. I think maybe this should be a part of the NFL fandom agreement to understand that OTAs and any practice in March and June is pretty much irrelevant. I mean, teams are doing more experimenting than they are planning. We only have to take a pledge about if I see my favorite team's top skill player doing something on X or Instagram in May or June, I got to ignore it because it is real. But it is funny. We were talking about this, a lot of us in the media last night at the Sabres game, about the different priorities, and that how normally Bills rookie minicamp would be the only thing going on. And right now, it's not a distant second, but it's a solid second for this weekend. Now, look, when Josh Allen shows up, that's different, because Josh Allen's one of the 3 or 4 top stars in any sport, let alone the NFL. But the Sabres have taken over in terms of the interest level around here, and it will not be the same kind of spring coverage for the Bills the longer the Sabres go this year.
Well, I'm going to give you one, and I don't know what to make of this. It could just be a flyer, or maybe it is something, and this guy's not a rookie. What do you make of the Bills just bringing in Jermaine Burton? Maybe he's not on the 90-man roster. Maybe that doesn't work out, but this is somebody we know with character concerns, and you normally don't have that type of player. But then again, Sean McDermott's not here anymore. Your thoughts on Burton? Is there, I guess, to be determined here what is left to be had in his career?
Former higher draft pick who has a laundry list of characters. This isn't just 1 or 2 things. This is a guy with basically a rap sheet. I don't mind the Bills maybe taking a look to see what this player has to offer, but I think he's really going to have to, show that he can have a significant impact on the field, and probably more importantly, B, prove that his act is cleaned up before the Bills really want to go longer term on him. I wouldn't be stunned if he made it to training camp. I would be pretty surprised if he's on this team after the end of August. So I'm not – it's certainly a guy to watch because it's someone who has a little bit of an NFL resume, and there won't be a lot of guys who are wearing Bills helmets with that kind of credentials this weekend in Orchard Park. But I'm not really looking at Jermaine Burton as someone who's moving the needle in any direction this season.
So we're done with the draft. A major part of free agency is done. There's a lot of familiar names still sitting out there, whether that's players that were with Buffalo or elsewhere in the league. What still needs to be done on this roster, Thad, in your opinion, in terms of shoring up a position or two?
Linebacker for sure. I'm not confident in the idea of Terrell Bernard's obviously fine. But after that, it's Dorian Williams. Is it the rookie Caleb Alarms or Joe Andreessen? Those are not options that sound like a starting linebacker to me. Now, they've got enough defensive backs to where I could see maybe the plan on the third down being we're going to play a lot of dime where Bernard's the only true linebacker on the field. They're also going to go more 3-4. So you could see 5 guys who you would traditionally think of as defensive linemen being on the field. But still, you need someone else to play linebacker who you can count on. And again, I don't think the Bills have that. So is it Bobby Okereke, who I think would probably cost more than we think the Bills have to spend? Is it maybe bringing back Shaq Thompson? I think that is priority one. And I still think they need a veteran at corner because after Christian Benford, the only guys you really have on this roster who you think are starter level are Max Hairston and Davison Igbinosun. And frankly, neither guy has enough of a resume to feel like you can depend on that to be a reasonable starting option. I think it's, considering how high both guys were picked, I think there's good odds that at least one of them will be functional enough to be a solid CB2, but I don't know that. And if that one particular player, or I think the disaster scenario right now, if Christian Benford were to get hurt and you had to play Igbinosun and Hairston to start week 1, I think that would cause Bills fans to jam the panic button a little bit. So finding someone in free agency who's a veteran who can at least be a dependable option there, I think should also be important. The problem is, and I think one of the reasons why the Bills drafted Igbinosun in the first place and why a lot of us were kind of scratching our heads at that, there really isn't an option available in free agency who fits into the I can depend on him if I have to start him, but I don't want to have to start him, or I don't want to pay him the level he's going to have to pay. Because you go from like the Marshawn Lattimore and the L'Jarius Sneeds of the world, who will expect to start, who will cost you 8 figures, right down into the Rasul Douglases of the world to where, yeah, he's a vet, but boy, I really don't want to put him on the field at this stage of his career. So I don't know who that guy is. Is it maybe Trey White? Trey White worked better in the old defense. I don't know if this is going to be a defense that fits him as well. So there's questions there as well.
Well, you were just kind of, that was going to be the obvious follow-up question. Is this scheme so different that you're automatically crossing Tre'Davious White on? Because I would say he's probably playing a lot of different situations, and let's be honest, he was really good for the Bills down the stretch. So again, is it just kind of a scheme question, or is it more of a money thing right now? Hard to not know without talking to Trey himself what the holdup is. But I'd be stunned if he wasn't somewhere in the league coming up this fall.
I'm certainly with you on that last statement, and I don't want to make it seem like that Trey wouldn't fit. I think that with corners to a degree, if you're good enough, you're good enough. I do think this scheme is going to be a little more in-your-face, attacking press man stuff. Igbinosun fits. I think Hairston might be the one who might have the most trouble fitting into this scheme. I think Trey White would be fine in this scheme. The one of the reasons that I might question Trey, though, is that he goes away from Buffalo after the injuries and really doesn't play well with the Rams or the Ravens. And then he comes back to Buffalo and does play well. And I don't think the reason for that is the scheme in terms of what they physically asked him to do worked. I think it helped out because Trey knew the scheme. You've spent all that years in that Sean McDermott defense. You don't have to think too much. You can just react. And when you're not thinking, that speeds up the whole process. And especially as a veteran who has been in the league for a while and the defense for a while, your processing time decreases to such a level that Trey White might be able to overcome whatever physical limitations he has. Going to any different scheme from that, as he might have proved it with the Rams and the Ravens, might be the problem. And that might be where the Bills have trepidation about going there, because even if the scheme, I think, fits what Trey does physically, and I do think that, because it's new and because there's going to be more thinking time involved, I don't think he'll be as effective. That said, it doesn't cross him off the list. Like I said, the list ain't very long right now, and I think Trey White's still on it.
Last one, Thad. Do they have enough at wide receiver? I know Brandon Beane will always be like, if you ask him the question, we're always looking. He wants more competition for sure there. But is there anybody out there right now? Because you look at the list of free agents available, there's certainly some really big names, and I just don't know if the price tag will drop as much for any of those guys to have them land in Buffalo here.
If you drew a line and said enough is, when you say is it enough? Enough is above the line and not enough is below the line. I think the Bills receiving core is like resting on top of the line. I think it is enough, but it doesn't mean the Bills can't add more if there's someone out there. I don't know who would fit, and I do think they're kind of Pac committed a little bit to a number of guys. I mean, if you can get Keon Coleman off the roster, that would open up a spot for you. I just don't know if there's a guy out there that I would bring into this team. Is there anyone, I'll put it this way, is there anyone out there who is going to be demonstrably better than Josh Palmer walking into this team right now? I don't know if that's the question. I know there's an answer for that. I know there are guys that you could argue. I mean, like Deebo Samuel, someone coming to mind. If you're a big Deebo guy, you maybe could make that argument. But I don't think this is a team that's going to go grab a big-name wide receiver at this point. Doesn't mean that he couldn't work or help because it ain't a great core. But I do think that the Bills are okay if they want to say that we've done enough. Now we got to make it work with what we have. And making it work, too, isn't just about the receiving core. They got to figure out left guard. They got to make sure that Dalton Kincaid is on the field more often. If you answer those questions, then you don't need the more receiver that maybe someone else might bring in.
Thad, great stuff as always. For our audience, what can we go check out tonight, this weekend on News 8?
Man, we are crazy busy. So tomorrow I'm actually going to be down at Watkins Glen doing live reports from the race. That's this weekend, too. We'll be covering that over the weekend. Rachel Liebert will be at Game 2 for the Sabres tomorrow. So live reports from her, 4, 5, and 6. And please download our digital channel, Rochester First. You can get it on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV for free. We do BKO Nightly twice a week, all Bills podcasts all the time. This week, we're comparing Bills v. Patriots. So position by position, who has the better group, and ultimately, which team do we think is in better position for the AFC East this year? So go check that out on Rochester First. You can also get that, by the way, on YouTube and on Spotify.
Did you go anywhere near the drama of the Patriots, or is that doesn't factor in, I guess, position?
No, this is just a roster discussion. I think we've all had enough of that. You see Ernie Johnson, by the way, they a couple days ago they did the Gone Fishing graphic when the Celtics got eliminated. So that you put all the Celtics fans on there, all the Celtics-related things, and Vrabel and Rossini were apparently graphic on there. And Ernie Johnson's like, there's Jason Tatum, there's Matt Damon, there's Bill Simmons, and then there's someone else, and I'm out of here, bye, that kind of thing. So it was pretty good.
It's that I can't get enough of it. And, that's a flaw in my character. Thank you for the time today. Good stuff, and we'll be checking that out.
Sounds good, G-Man. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Thad Brown, News 8, our guest here in the Sports Bar. As do the Bills have enough of a wide receiver? I'm going to say no. No. But I want the receiving core just not to be pedestrian, right? But you look at those names. He brought up Deebo Samuel. All right, that would be great, but can you really afford that? Do you really want a Tyreek Hill? I don't. Just because personally I don't like the guy. That's kind of like that's really the reason. But, if you had him healthy, doesn't he feel like a future Chief too?
Yeah.
Perhaps. So that was the Jermaine Byrne thing, like, but that's a signal like, hey, this is not the same old Bills. If you're bringing in somebody like that for a look-see, it'll be interesting next week to see. All right, coming out of that, who gets because some of these are just invites to the rookie camp. We'll see how the roster kind of shapes here, but I'm certainly excited about spring football ahead for the Buffalo Bills because it sets us up for training camp. Our producer today is not Terrible Take Timmy.
Nope.
It is Dan DeLorean. So, Dan, do you know what's coming up next?
I know what's coming up next.
Are you prepared?
I think I'm prepared.
Okay. Is it going to be a take that will because your other take that was you
I can go a variety of different ways. I'm depending on which one I want to throw at you.
Oh,
but
all right. All right.
We'll see.
I'm ready. And yes, we do have another Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, we're the show that will talk gossip, sports here. We have that. We have time for your calls at 585-866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia, and this is WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester.
Hello, this is Gene Battaglia. May is such a beautiful time of year here in Western New York, but it's also a reminder that the summer heat isn't far behind. Yes, that's true. And if your windows are older and inefficient, the heat can sneak in quickly and drive your energy bills right up along with it. That's why I recommend Window Nation. When it comes to your home, it's one of the smartest investments you can make, and experts say the windows can retain up to 80% of their value. So you're not just improving comfort, you're adding long-term value too. Window Nation's windows are custom built for your home, measured carefully for the right fit, and installed by experienced crews, often in 1 day or less. And every window is backed by a lifetime warranty, which gives you real peace of mind. Right now, during their Buy 4 Windows, Get 4 Free sale, you can replace your windows and get half of them for free. Plus, there's no money down and no payments or interest for 2 full years. Don't wait. Buy 4, get 4 free. It's happening now. Visit windownation.com to schedule your consultation today. That's windownation.com.
Rochester's premier whiskey.
6. Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WROCAM, WBEE, HD2 Rochester, and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Sabres take game one. They led wire to wire in this one. Buffalo over Montreal by a 4-2 final. Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff knew that this matchup was going to be a little faster.
We really felt the pace was going to be a lot higher, and the pace was higher. If you get caught on the wrong side of the puck in that type of game and in that type of pace, you're going to give something up. And they gave some stuff up, so did we. And I'm pretty sure they want to correct some stuff, and so do we.
Paul Hamilton, WGR Buffalo, will join us, talk a little hockey coming up later this hour here in the Sports Bar. On the Major League scoreboard, the Texas Rangers have just gone up on the Yankees 2-1. They're in the top of the fifth. Twins and Nationals tied at 2. They're in the bottom of the fourth. Cleveland and Kansas City coming up here shortly. The Mets finishing up their series in Colorado. Rochester Red Wings game 3 of their 6-game series tonight in Syracuse. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Pull up a chair, stay for a while. You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coat, get sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have things much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. Sports Bar for Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2. Thank you for joining us here today in the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you. Tim Schneider, terrible. Take Timmy is out today. He'll be back tomorrow. All right, just keep telling the guy, like, health. Take care of your health, but never calling in, never taking a day off is the one thing. Only Dan DeLorean. We will have Dan Drummy's terrible take coming up here shortly. Scheduled tonight. Is anybody excited about Carolina and Philadelphia? I mean, I'll put it on because, yeah, and Dan, you are, Dan?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, like Carolina can just put a quick end to this. And actually, I think that would be good. I don't think the team that sits around does nothing is beneficial to them. So if Carolina sweeps Philadelphia, good for them. And they'll be waiting around a little bit because I don't think the Sabres series is going to wrap up in a nice, tidy fashion. I'm sorry, as high as we were, Montreal's going to counterpunch. But that being said, don't you feel good about the Sabres right now? For sure. We'll talk more about Paul Hamilton coming up tonight with 2 games in the NBA. Cleveland, Detroit. Okay, some local flavor there, certainly. Lakers and OKC. Knicks go up 2-0 on the Sixers. And that was the classic, hey, we're without our best guy. Let's kind of everybody raise the level of your game. And we just asked this, like, does that tell you everything you need to know about Joel Embiid? I mean, what possibly could he not battle through to get himself on the floor? Like, that was the opportunity. Your team needed you. You weren't there last night. And that's why just when you thought things might have been turning, Embiid leading his team basically to an upset win over the Celtics in round 1, and then he's not available in game number 2, and then the Knicks going up 2-0. And I've been saying this. I will continue to say this. I don't know if the Sabres make it to the Cup final. However, in the NBA, I feel more confident about an OKC Knicks final at this point. Mm-hmm. Detroit didn't look all that to me in their first-round win over Orlando. Cleveland has not proven anything, and the Knicks are only 2 wins away from advancing to the final. So, like, to me, the Knicks getting to the final to face OKC, for sure. You could say maybe Minnesota or San Antonio. I'm sorry. I'll put my money for the chalk out west. 585-866-4326. Paul Hamilton coming up in a little bit. But now we turn the keys over to the Dan DeLorean.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
I think, and I'm going to open this up to anybody, if anybody wants to take a crack at an open for the Dan DeLorean. By all means, people hate that. Some people hate that. But I personally love it. I think it fits Timmy's persona. Like I'm going into a 1950s soda shop and we're going to talk some sports with Tim and just have a good time. I don't know what kind of musical.
I'd love to hear some renditions. So if you're listening in Kentucky, Chris, or anyone else who wants to,
Dan DeLorean opens. We got to get Dan a custom
please.
open.
I would love one.
Because it's once every, couple weeks we actually have you on this side of the mic. So, Dan Drummy, what do you have for us today, Mike?
So I was thinking which way I want to go with this, Gino. Do I want to go down the baseball route? Do I want to kind of touch on the Sabres from last night? I'm going to stick in the hockey world, I guess. Can we do away with draft lotteries altogether, just in general? Because I'm just so sick and tired of hearing the conspiracy theories about this being rigged and fixing everything. And listen, I wasn't happy with what happened and who won the lottery on Tuesday. I don't want to see Kevin McKenna or anyone else in Toronto. I didn't want to see him with the Rangers either. But the more I thought about it, I felt really bad for Vancouver and for Calgary. But the more I really thought about it, is the league going to put a possible generational talent out in British Columbia where no one can watch him on the West Coast? Probably not. Or in Calgary where no one's going to watch him? Or are they going to put him in the hockey mecca, the hockey market of Toronto? It makes sense. But I'm just so sick of telling you, this is fixed, this is rigged. Conspiracy with the Islanders last year when they lost their all-star bid and they gave him Matthew Schaefer supposedly last year, and then this year, Toronto's going to lose Austin Matthews because all the turmoil with the unrest with all the American players who play in Canada, so they're going to lose Austin Matthews, and now he's going to stay because they're going to draft Kevin McKenna. So I'm done. I'm done with the lotteries. I don't need to hear lottery for the NHL, NBA, any other sport. Do away with them. And if you think they are tanking, you have a league. You can either fire the general manager, you can suspend, you can dock a draft pick. I mean, my team had their draft pick go from what could have been 18, 19, 32nd in this year upcoming draft in Buffalo. Another thing, the Leafs have missed the playoffs, twice the last 10, 11 years?
Yep.
And they're picking first overall. Both those times were in Buffalo, and they're both going to get a generational talent in Buffalo, which is kind of weird.
It's super strange. Dan, okay, great job. Tim, you're on notice, buddy. That's all right. So I love this. And let me just start. We didn't do a show on Wednesday, but my apologies for that. But it's Tuesday night. I'm just looking at the wire. I'm like, now, in our show, we shouldn't ever be like, ooh, sorry, we missed a story or didn't have, I never want to do that. I want to just make sure we're bringing to you, but it was something that was in our conscious for years and years and years, and maybe I just kind of pushed out. I'm like, holy cow, I forgot the lottery was tonight. Okay, Toronto, and the stat that you're throwing out, and it's remarkable, only two times in 11 years, Toronto has been eligible to be selected for the top spot. To hit on that, when you combine the odds from the Austin Matthews draft to last night, 1.7% chance to go back-to-back, but it's not back-to-back, only the two times? Okay, that's remarkable that's like hitting on black and roulette. What is it? It's not black, it's green. Whatever it is. You get my point, right? Yeah. It's like, how does that even happen? Well, and I didn't watch the draft. I'm just admitting that I totally forgot about it. Dan, did you watch the draft?
The lottery results?
The lottery, yeah.
Yeah, I did, because I wanted to see it. And
did they do it in the same format where they just come out and here's the card? Where it's all
no, it wasn't. So what they did was they had the ping pong balls.
Okay.
And supposedly it's live. I mean, debatable. I don't think it's live. And they had all the GMs there on their Zooms and everything. And they had the first ball came up, and then they had the top 15 teams who were eligible, and they had numbers based on percentage they could pick.
I get that, but if they did the ping pong balls, what are you upset about? Well, how is it it's Yolanda Vega can't fake the ping pong ball?
Oh, I mean, you always hear, this ball was weighted, this is this and that, and then they went to break, said, don't worry, we're going to have a live feed so you can watch during the commercial break. You can watch the whole feed before we come back for the last ball, and they go to break. In the first 20, 30 seconds, they didn't have the live feed up, so there was that conspiracy up there. And I mean, Toronto, all the turmoil with Toronto, and I felt bad for Vancouver because they lose Quinn Hughes. and they were the worst team this year. But then I thought, they don't have a GM, so they're probably not going to give Vancouver, who doesn't have a GM yet. Kevin Adams is in the running for that, along with a bunch of other players. But I just felt bad for Vancouver and Calgary, teams I felt were truly deserving to pick first overall.
Do they deal Matthews this offseason?
I don't think so. They do not. He's still under contract.
He's still, right.
And now that you have, you're going to get either McKenna or Stenberg or somebody in this year's draft in Buffalo, by the way. So I think Toronto they're going to be fine. They're going to retool, and then they'll be back in the playoffs and we'll have to deal with the whole Leafs nonsense for another X amount of years.
Well, Dan, draft lotteries are not going anywhere.
I know. I wish they get rid of them.
But it's funny how, in the NFL, you come up should the NFL have a draft lottery? No.
No, they don't need to.
No, it's so many guys are competing for jobs. It's super hard to tank in the NFL. In my opinion, it's super hard to tank. Sure, there's shortcuts you can do. You could strip the roster way down like the New York Jets did, say, for example, and that still won't earn you what you're looking for. I think the NBA has a real problem. I think the NBA, it's unwatchable. I don't know how you talk to your partners, your TV partners, your advertisers, whether that's nationally or locally, when you're putting up product where literally teams aren't trying. And they've tried with the penalties and everything for teams that are doing this. Doesn't seem to be a deterrent. The NHL is a little different in that I don't know if McKenna's going to be all that.
I'm hoping he's now Yakupov and he's out of the league in 3 seasons. But he might be. I mean, from what I've seen, he's pretty skilled.
We're going to make the smooth segue, talking from hockey over to gossip here, Dan, because there isn't a day that goes by where we don't have another new angle. And if you go back to Tuesday on the show, and I asked this question to Matt Perino, because I think it is a football question. With the Buffalo Bills, okay, step one, winning the division. Okay, who won the division last year? Not the Buffalo Bills. It was New England. All right, well, kind of an interesting story, right, New England? And we could debate, does that actually, hurt the team on the field? Does this carry over? Matt Perino's point was good. He's like, look, let's push that aside. I don't know if Drake May's any good. Ooh. And then you look at Drake May's performances last year. Yeah, he was bad against the Chargers. They won. He was really bad against the Texans. They won that too. And he was a non-factor in the AFC Championship game. They won that. I mean, has there ever been a quarterback who played 3 subpar playoff games and ended up in the Super Bowl? Probably. But looking ahead, if you're New England, are you really saying there's all that? I still think that Dre May is a work in progress, and I'm just being nice on that. So that's probably concern number one. Concern number two is hey, this head coach thing, and I will go back to what I said on day one here. And this is you have a situation where if you're caught with something, or maybe you're a parent, the better course of action is always to tell the truth. Because when you lie to somebody, people will be out to get you. And for Mike Vrabel and Diane Rossini just to be brazen and lie, obviously. And we will have more stories like this because it's such a slow news cycle. And the story now, courtesy of TMZ, I joke that we're TMZ Rochester sometimes talking about this much, but I've yet to have anybody write in and says, hey, Gene, shush on this. So until somebody, I welcome your feedback because people, we're here to talk about things you want to hear and talk about. I find it fascinating that we are still going with this story. And the story now is that, wait a second, in 2021, the two actually rented a boat together in Tennessee during the time when Rossini was expecting. Does this really matter? Big picture? Of course not. It doesn't matter. We've already proven that both of them have lied on this. We've already proven a lot of things. And for Rossini, she'll have to pay the bigger price, at least short term. But there's 2 angles here that I'd like to explore. One being that Mike Florio keeps hinting on this. There's going to be a Diana Rossini sit down at some point, we think. And if you're 60 Minutes, if you're anybody, name any show, that's the get. The get being the guest you want. Tell us the story, Diana. And to me, personally, this is why I would think it was weird. If you did the unthinkable and cheated on your spouse like that, would you really want to just kind of, or if your career and you are more important than anything else, maybe you would take the money and do that and try for a second chance. But this is the other one, too. And I'm no expert on affairs, right? But sometimes you might make a mistake, and then you wake up the next morning and say, oh, that was a mistake. Oh, boy, hopefully nobody finds out about that. This has been going on for years. These two obviously have feelings for one another. This isn't just some, random end-of-night hookup, at the NFL owners' meetings. This is something that they have great lengths trying to have their privacy. And so what is to say, you know what? Let's just be together. The heck with everything. I'm sorry, Mrs. V, here's your payout. Mr. Rossini, whatever your name is, the Shake Shack executive, here's your payout. And sorry, and we'll go to court over the kids. It sounds awful, but, at this point, who's to say that that doesn't happen? If you've been seeing somebody for 6 years on the QT, this, it sounds like a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
It sounds like, how did this start? What doubts were there along the way? You could add some sort of, what's the movie? Whatever. Pick whatever random, Wild Orchid or what's the one, Shades of Grey, whatever element you want to write into it along those lines. Talking in code here.
Can we just make it like a Hallmark film? We already have the Chiefs and the Bills.
No, we can't make. Man, no. I meant you. You meant me. Oh, actually, that would be kind of funny. See, you could be a good SNL writer. Tonight coming up on Hallmark.
I wish they would touch on it too.
Right. Why is everybody so afraid to not talk about this?
Why is there always a boat? That's what I want to know. I mean, the Giants scandal, the Vikings scandal, there's always a boat. Why is there always a boat with the NFL?
You want to get away, I suppose?
There's always a boat.
They have the handwritten note. TMZ had this one, handwritten note, renting the boat. Diana Rossini, signature. Mike Vrabel, signature.
Hallmark. Make it happen.
Hallmark movie.
Please.
It's but normally you're not wrecking homes in a Hallmark movie. The Hallmark Buffalo movie was okay, you're looking at your watch. Can they just get it on? All right, stop with this. You're yelling at the guy you're a good-looking guy. Ask her out, you idiot. Okay, we got to drag this out for another 2 hours. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, you Mr. GQ guy. You're head of construction for the new stadium. I believe that. Yeah, that's a good pull, Dan.
I'm sure Netflix will have something in the works soon.
Oh, yeah, that'll be Untold. And we
30 for 30.
30 for 30. All right, we'll work on that. Got to make sure Paul Hamilton might just be listening to all this and be like, guys, I'm kind of busy. Paul Hamilton, WGR Buffalo, scheduled to join us next as we'll talk a little Sabres because they are the story right now. The Sabres, Game 2 tomorrow night. We'll have it for you right here on the Sports Leader. Pregame at 6, but as I've been saying all along, let's be honest, the pregame really begins
6 a.m.
6 a.m. with Jeremy and Joe. That's correct, Dan. Paul Hamilton up next with Dan Drummond. I'm Gene Battaglia. This is WGR Rochester.
Rochester Sports Update.
Sabres taking game one, leading this one wire to wire 4-2, the win over Montreal. Head coach Lindy Ruff on the game one win.
You know what I like? The quick start we got off to. I know we can be a lot better. I thought some of our puck decisions weren't up to par. You know, we gave them a little bit of momentum. I think we hit 4 or 5 crossbars or posts and had a lot of great opportunities. You know, I think the 3-4 days off affected guys different ways.
Game 2 coming up tomorrow night. We'll talk to Paul Hamilton, WGR Buffalo, coming up next year in the Sports Bar. On the Major League scoreboard, the Rangers leading the Yankees in the Bronx 2-1. They are in the bottom of the 6th. Nationals are up on the Twins 4-3 in the 5th. Cleveland getting 3 in the top of the 1st. They lead at Kansas City by a 3-0 score. The Mets and Rockies coming up at 3 o'clock. Rochester Red Wings continue their series tonight in Syracuse. Gene Battaglia, WGR Rochester.
The best local sports talk in the Flower City. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR. Rochester.
They're a really good line. They have a ton of skill. They read the ice very well. And they're dangerous when they get their chances. So we have to take away time and space and keep staying on them and make it hard on them. I think we did a pretty good job. I think we can do even better next one.
Yeah, it is Rasmus Dahlin, who today was also named the finalist for the Norris Trophy for the best defenseman, and that is certainly well-deserved. Welcome back in. Gene Battaglia with you. Happy to be joined by Paul Hamilton, covering the Buffalo Sabres, always at a very high level. And, Paul, let's start here, because we think back to that Boston series. Home ice was not very kind to the Sabres. Just how important was it to make sure you get off to a good start here for the Sabres on home ice? Paul, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Great here. I mean, we have plenty to talk about. We don't have to talk about, Bill's rookie minicamp just as of yet. We still have playoff hockey here to talk about. And in a series like this, the importance of maintaining the home ice here, Paul.
Yeah, I saw Coach Leone here yesterday, and it gave me a chance to catch up about the Amherst and hear about some of their season and some of their players, and just kind of catch myself up. So it was great to see him here. I know he certainly would rather be playing, but I think we all know why. A lot of the team was injured. A lot of the team was here. Part of the team was in Winnipeg. So, there's only so much you can take when it comes to that kind of stuff. It was one of those games last night where, if you recall, Buffalo's only home win came in game 1 against Boston. But that one, they had to come back from a 2-0 deficit with 8 minutes left in the game to win that hockey game, scored 4 goals and won it. This game, they started scoring goals early and took a lead on Montreal, maybe put Montreal back a little bit on their heels, and really never looked back. They got it up to 3-1, and then got it up to 4-1, and then the last goal of the game made it 4-2, and the Sabres were able for the rest of the game to protect their 2-goal lead and get out of here with a win.
That last night, getting off to the quick start, 2 power play goals, but it's also the idea that your fourth line is contributing. And if you talk to coaches at any level, they love it when, all right, maybe what's the fourth line? What's the third? No, we just have good lines here right now. And for Lindy Ruff here, to get that out of Greenway and that unit last night, Paul, and the idea that, hey, Sam Carrick might be waiting in the wings right now, just getting your thoughts on the balance of what we're seeing here up front for the Buffalo Sabres.
It drives me insane, the hockey ignorance that people have of Jordan Greenway. They don't understand what he brings. I guess they expect 50 goals out of him. That's not what he does. It's not what he brings. I mean, I had somebody telling me, Greenway stinks. Get him out of the lineup. Put Helenius in. It's like, no, stop. I mean, they're 2 completely different players. Helenius is not going to fill Jordan Greenway's role. If Jordan Greenway gets injured, Helenius is not going in for him. Dunn is going in for him, or Pearson is going in for him. That's not the guy you put in there for Greenway, nor did Greenway deserve to come out of the lineup. I mean, the things he does, he is a premier penalty killer. He's very good at, on the forecheck. He had 5 hits last night. Forget about the goal. He was in, acting like a power forward like he normally does, had 5 hits, gets to the net, causes turnovers. That's his game. That's what the Sabres expect out of him. And, not only does he get a key goal, and it really was a kind of a crafty goal. I mean, look at the way he set up Carrier to screen the goaltender.
Yeah.
And then set him up to do that and got the shot through. Didn't get the shot blocked, so Dobish can't see the puck. And to your point, you got Kozak going to the net, takes Mathewson with him. So you have what's called a flash screen there. And they had just barely gotten by Dobish, but first of all, they distract him because they were right in front of him. And second of all, they had screened him too. So now the puck's on its way. They finally get out of his way, but he didn't see the puck coming. You can see he doesn't look over his glove, though. The puck hits his glove to a point, but it's basically because his glove's just out there. It's not because he made the save. And it goes in the net, and you could tell he looks late because he didn't see it coming. But that was a pretty crafty goal by Greenway. But to see him play the way he played to score the goal, almost scored another one, had 5 hits, and was very key on the forecheck and also key on his defensive responsibilities. I just think he's just a member of the Sabres that people just don't appreciate for whatever their reasons are. I don't really know why. Maybe because he doesn't score or whatever it is. But people, stop with the Hellenuus for Greenway, and it's more than one person. I've had actually quite a few that want to do that.
Yeah.
Just try to watch Greenway play and understand the way he plays. Now, if you have a top 6 injury, that's why Hellenuus has come to practice, because you're not going to put Dunn or Pearson in for a top 6 injury. That's where you need Hellenuus here with practice, because now he goes into the lineup.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want him practicing with the team, Paul? But I think people were just connecting dots when there were none to be connected at this point. Do you want him as a black ace? Do you want him, let's get him out there, and then, in case it would be like a last option there. Hellenuus is certainly going to be the future, but it's not here yet. Question about Carrick, because is it a no-brainer that he goes back in the lineup once you figure out he's healthy here, Paul? How do you think the lineup gets managed up front moving forward?
Kozak had a really nice game, I want to tell you. I mean, we just talked about the one play. He was laying on the goal line because he was like a rabid dog in the crease area. He was hard on the forecheck. He really had a nice game. So it might be kind of like Ostlund before he came back. It's like, well, he's going to have to wait his turn. And then Norris got hurt, so his turn came up. And then Norris sat out an extra game because same situation. It's like, well, he's going to have to wait his turn. And it only turned out one game because, unfortunately for Buffalo, Ostlund got injured. Mike Leone and I had a really nice conversation about him, and him just telling me maybe things that you don't realize about him. It helps me to get to know the player a little bit better and things I can watch for when he's on the ice. And so that it was fun, really, to talk to him about that and be able to. It's just maybe Carrick might have to wait his turn. Now Norris is over 50% on faceoffs in the playoffs, so you do at least have one guy that is doing well in the faceoff circle, and that, of course, is why you would want him back. But it'll be interesting to see, after a 4-2 win, if Lindy Ruff would want to mess with his lineup.
Paul, I don't watch Montreal Canadiens hockey all that often, so many of us don't. But that being said, the disclaimer: what adjustments do they make going into this? Do they got to play a little tougher? How would you think? What would be the messaging from their head coach heading into this game too, in your opinion?
Their head coach Marty St. Louis liked the way they played for the most part. He thought they had a good first period, even though they got behind. And he liked the fact that his top line all of a sudden has some room. He said they spent the last 2 weeks basically having clamps on them from the Tampa Bay Lightning. He goes, And in this particular game, they had some room to operate. So I think that's what that's what they're looking for, to get some production out of Caulfield, who has one goal. Now Suzuki did score, but 5-on-5, very often Montreal was up against the Thompson line with that line. And I thought the Thompson line, and I asked Lindy Ruff about it today, and he agreed. He said, I think when those two lines were out together, that the Suzuki line had one scoring opportunity. So he did like the way the Thompson line defended against them the times they were out there against them. And because I'm not going to lie to you, I was kind of surprised when I saw that matchup, because it's up to Lindy Ruff. He gets last change. And what he said to me today, he goes, it's not the matchup I was looking for, but I decided to let it go. And he said it worked out fine. He goes, that's kind of why I let it go for a while, because, he thought it worked out fine. So if I'm Montreal, I'm looking for ways to get Cole Caulfield introduced to the playoffs this year.
We're talking to Paul Hamilton, WGR Buffalo. We're WGR Rochester. As we joked last week when we talked to Paul, there will be this manifest destiny at WGR across New York State and across the country at some point. And
I did it again.
Yeah.
I did Buffalo first and came right to Rochester. Back-to-back WGRs here.
You are always gracious with your time here, Paul. And is there anything new we could say about Zach Benson? Because, Paul, he's 20, and he seems to be dialed in, and you certainly follow this closer than I do, but he seems like the player that, all right, I'm going to play at a different level, and now the postseason's here. He's this different animal that is out there. Your thoughts on what you're seeing here out of the winger for Buffalo?
Yeah, it's funny because two winning players come up to the podium, and here comes Benson and Greenway, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this should be good. Because they are both so funny. And they were. I mean, they were busting each other up there, and it was kind of a funny session between the two of them. And even the Sabres tweeted out afterwards on social media, whose idea was this, with a picture of the two of them. So they're characters, and they're very close together in the locker proximity in the dressing room. And but Benson, hey, you better bring your lunch pail, because he's bringing his. And you're in a hockey game when you're with him. It's no more of this, we're playing the Buffalo Sabres. You kidding me? We're not going to get hit. You think we're going to get bruised up here? This is going to be an easy game. For years, coming into this arena was easy, way too easy. Not that way anymore at all. And Benson's a part of that. It's like you are going to work hard against him if you want to beat him, and you are going to have intensity if you want to beat him, and you better be ready for a physical game if you want to beat him. And because he's coming, and he's going to be the first one at that puck, and he's going to battle you to the bitter end. Probably after the whistle, he's going to keep battling you. And now the offensive touch has come, which we've talked about before. And at 20, I'm saying – he's always been able to get points and score in every level, but he's only, at the time, I said 18 years old. He's not going to just jump into the NHL and score. So fast forward to 2 years later, look at the last 35 games or so of the regular season. He, I think, had maybe 27 points, 26 points, which for him is excellent in that period of time. And now look at him here in the playoffs. He's got 5 points in 7 games. So not only do you have, what they call the dog with the W, D-A-W-G, not only does he have the dog in him, but now some of the offense. Those are pretty slick passes he made for assists last night, and he's got a couple of goals. So now the offense is starting to kick in.
Paul, we haven't talked since the win over Boston. What did you make of that play? It's a slew foot, but to what degree? Talking about the McAvoy penalty, what should be the punishment here on McAvoy going back to the Boston series?
Between 5 and 10 games, and in my opinion, Benson should have been suspended a game for the slew foot that started it. The slew foot is an extremely dangerous play. You can have a guy go backwards and smack the back of his head on the wall, on the ice. It's just a dirty, extremely dangerous play. But what McAvoy did, that can't stand. I mean, you can't wind up and hit people in the face with your stick and not at least get 5 games and maybe 10. Now, unfortunately, you have George Peros, who basically is boys will be boys. All the things that I'm just talking about, he's probably done 100 times in his career because that was the type of player he was, the fighter, the goon type of a player. So that's who you got doling out the penalties and the discipline, but they've offered him an in-person hearing, which means it can go over 5 games.
Paul Hamilton joining us here. Paul, what I love about this schedule is it's every other night. We are into a rhythm. Glad this lines up perfectly. Game 2 tomorrow night here on WGR Rochester, and then it's off to Montreal. And Paul, you have covered games there. What are the Sabres walking into when they're going up to Montreal here coming up? Tell us about that atmosphere they're going to have to face here Saturday.
Well, I'm going to give you and your wife a vacation idea. If you have not been to the Bell Center for a game, get there. I mean, get there for a Sabre game. It is an atmosphere that is like no other. And, of course, I think you'd enjoy Montreal, too. You've probably been there before, but, old Montreal is like walking through Europe. And but to see a hockey game there, I would definitely suggest the two of you maybe, take the drive, 5-hour drive or whatever it is from Rochester. And I don't think you would be sorry. Plus, hey, look at it this way. With the exchange rate, everything you spend on your credit card is 30% off. So your ticket is 30% off. Your hotel is 30% off. So, hey, I'm trying to save you money, too.
Yeah, no, I like that, Paul. And you helped us out with our original trip to Montreal. You told us about Old Town, and I hadn't even thought. See, hon, it's okay. Paul says we're going. There was so much concern that the Habs fans would take over the arena last night, and they were there, but it didn't seem like that. Paul, you're bringing up a good point. Maybe Sabre fans can somehow infiltrate an arena that would somehow be unthinkable there. Because there are tickets available if you want them on the secondary market.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive, but again, I don't know if you would get the exchange rate when we're talking about those tickets. That is beyond my pay grade, but they're there, and I would say normally there's about 65 to 70% of the arena filled with Montreal Canadiens fans, and looking at this year or this game, I would say maybe about 10-15% were Montreal fans. So the fans here in Western New York did a fantastic job of keeping the Montreal fans out of here. They did not let them get involved in the game. There was no go Habs go or anything like that. The Buffalo fans were in control of the arena. And I know that the players appreciate that. And, I think they did a really good job of keeping this a Buffalo crowd.
All right, Paul, I'm getting out my phone, which has the calculator, as every phone does. The get-in price right now, Montreal, $387. Now, you're up in the nosebleeds, but who cares? You're there, but then you do the exchange rate. For 2 tickets, that's $541 US with the exchange. That's it.
No, that's not bad.
No,
that's not bad.
No, honestly, like $541, it's either you're paying that if you're going to a Broadway play, trust me, so I'm going to record this. I'm going to play it for my wife and see if we can get up there on Saturday night. Then again, it's Mother's Day on Sunday, Paul, so that's going to be a tough putt. Paul, but
even if you got to go next year in a regular season game, I'm just telling you, you will not be. Maybe she doesn't want to go see a hockey game, but you won't be sorry.
Paul, always appreciate you carving out a few minutes for us, and that's cool that you caught up with Mike Leone, and he told us he's going to be back for the Amerks next season, and just that roster is going to look completely different as it always does. But you know what? It takes away the sting of the Amerks season being over. It's seeing the parent club doing what they're doing right now.
It really is helpful because, I can't get to too many Amerks games with my schedule and everything. And just to be able to ask questions about certain players and how they're playing and things like that is really, really helpful.
Paul, appreciate you, bud. And let's do this again soon.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. Paul Hamilton joining us here on the Sports Bar. As that was, somebody's thinking about it out there, too. 2 tickets $387 Canadian, which you do the math, you're getting 30% off. You got to put it on your credit card. Most credit cards will hit you for the international fee, but who cares? The drive up to Montreal, it's not that bad, actually. Did it a couple summers ago. So I'm sure there's more than one. Maybe you'll see a lot of blue coming up in the arena.
I think we will.
Yeah.
Something tells me that the Sabres fans this year, they're going to be up there at Centre Bell cheering on the Swords.
I misspoke there. Game 3 is Sunday on Mother's Day
Oh,
itself.
okay.
So that's
never
why
mind.
I was like, that's why I was like, well, it's your day, hon, but let's go to Montreal. What do you say? Last call is for you. 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
best local sports talk in the Flower City. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Yeah, we knew this was going to happen. Sorry if you could detect it by the tone of my voice. I might be leading you to feel one way about this story, but if you have to hear from the individual who says, this is great, this is awesome. Matt Norlander, CBS, reporting that it's official. They are going to expand both the men's and women's basketball tournaments to 76 coming up in March. Again, I have yet to hear the person other than maybe Jim Boeheim or somebody that, okay, you're a coach, you get to save your job for another year. And I suppose that more games, better for the economy, blah, blah, blah. But you had a product that nobody thought was broken whatsoever. And ultimately what this will do is it will allow the bigger conferences to get more teams. Those at-large bids are not going to the third team in the Atlantic 10. Let's make that straight. This is not pairwise in college hockey. College hockey, you look at the list, computer says this is the first team that didn't win their automatic bid that gets in. No, it's a committee, and the committee can be swayed by money, for sure. And that spot will go to an Auburn who didn't get in this year, or some team like that. So if you're a Bonaventure fan, this is not necessarily a good thing. Hey, this is going to be an opportunity for us. No, it will not. And those play-in rounds will mean those 14 versus 14, 13 versus 13. Those will be all mid-majors. So Cinderella is not dead. On life support, though. Palliative care. Great show we had today. Normally, this is where I would tell you, who's coming up on the show tomorrow. I got to figure that out. Dan.
Okay.
But Dan, great job stepping in today.
Thanks for having me, Gino. I had a good time.
So Dan DeLorean, who is waving to the camera goodbye. If you miss any of today's show, well, normally Dan DeLorean's chopping it all up. You haven't done that yet.
I will get to it. Don't worry.
Okay, but 1 to 3 p.m., 2 hours you can listen to. Just download the Odyssey app. We're on 1 to 3 Eastern time. Sabres hockey tomorrow night, Montreal. Game number 2. We'll have that for you here, of course. Show Up in the Bulldog coming your way next. For Dan Drummey, I'm Gene Battaglia, and this is WGR Rochester.